No, I got nothing. The last, the potential
I like the way
last time there's two.
You were trying to go this way, that way. You're on the right track. You are on the right track.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. It's potentially the last time that we've got two games on one day.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is the end of a process in the National Hockey League schedule. One of those steps, the end of multiple game nights in the National Hockey League for this year. Because if Vegas wins tonight, then you only have one game every night. They're going the rest of the way because the conference finals will alternate, and then you get to the Stanley Cup final, and they're not going to play two in one day. There's no day-night doubleheaders in the National Hockey League. So we've got the Montreal Canadiens against the Buffalo Sabres. They will get underway shortly. It is game number 5 in that series, tied up at 2. The teams have split on home ice in both Buffalo and Montreal. The series returning back to Western New York. And tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights can bounce the Anaheim Ducks in this second-round Western Conference series. Game 6 of that set, with the Golden Knights looking for back-to-back victories to advance to the Western Conference Final against the Colorado Avalanche. Things are coming together a little bit. What's your take on the playoffs so far?
So, I mean, obviously, it feels lackluster to a certain degree because Colorado and Carolina have been so good, so dominant. Like, you kind of wanted to see those two teams pushed a little bit, and it didn't really happen. Now, I've loved what's gone on with Buffalo and Montreal. I've really enjoyed that series a lot here in the second round. But again, I think that there was a bit of a disappointment or letdown in the first round because Dallas, Minnesota was not what I was expecting it to be. Colorado, Minnesota was not what I was expecting it to be. If not for, really the Golden Knights and how close the series had been for them, Buffalo, Montreal, it would have felt or been to this point pretty lackluster in my opinion.
So I ask you that because Carolina is through, undefeated.
Yep.
Colorado advances to the Western Conference Final with an 8-1 record. Vegas is one win away from getting through the Pacific Division route and advancing to the Western Conference Final. And Buffalo is tied. And all 4 of those teams are number 1 seeds coming out of their division. We haven't had a big upset yet. The twos lost. The 2 seeds in each division all failed to advance. But right now, like if you look back at this playoff in 2 years, you go, that was pretty expected. It's un-Stanley Cup playoff-ish.
Yeah, it really is. It doesn't feel like there's been that moment, right, where you've gone, oh boy, I did not see that coming in a lot of ways. And again, like I looked at Minnesota and Dallas and I thought Minnesota was going to win that series, but I did not think it was going to be as easy as it felt. It might not have been easy in the moment, but it felt easy. So to that point, we haven't really had one of those moments where you look at it and you've got an unconventional team that you didn't see coming in the Final Four. I don't think that's really what we've gotten in this playoff so far.
Vegas can win tonight. That would make them 8-4. A pretty workmanlike performance if they can get through. They will have to get by tonight with an injury-depleted roster. Braden McNabb will not play due to suspension. Jeremy Lauzon and Mark Stone are unavailable due to injury. Vegas is going to have to fight through some challenges to eliminate the Anaheim Ducks on the road tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is kind of like the MO of the Golden Knights this season. Like, it's not easy. It hasn't been easy. It's never going to be easy. But the fact of the matter is, right, like, the Golden Knights have been able to find a way without Mark Stone the last couple of games. They were able to find a way without Braden McNabb for the majority of game number 5. And tonight, to close out the Anaheim Ducks, like they're going to have to find a way again without Lozon, without Mark Stone, without Braden McNabb. The difference here is they will have a full complement of defensemen that they can utilize in this game today without Braden McNabb. So for a team that all season long has been able to find a way to a certain degree, they're going to need to do it again tonight.
But the defense is going to look much different than it did at the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, you look at right now, it looks like Shea Theodore is going to go to the left side, play alongside Dylan Coghlan, who has come in and done a tremendous job for the Golden Knights. The pair that stays the same will be Rasmus Andersson and Noah Hannafin, and then we're expecting Caden Korzak alongside Ben Hutton. So a very different-looking defense than what we got in game number 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
So normally, Shea Theodore plays on the right side. Even though he's a left shot, he plays on his offside. He's going to slide over to his natural left side. Dylan Coghlan, who was not in the lineup at the start of the playoffs, is going to play up with Shea Theodore. You've got your standard pairing in Anderson and Noah Hannafin. And then you've got what started out in the playoffs going to the 7 and 8 defensemen.
Yeah, and again, I think that speaks volumes of a number of different things for the Golden Knights, their ability to get players to come in and get the job done to a certain degree, right? Like, again, we talked about Dylan Coghlan. I think he's been really good for the Golden Knights when he's been in the lineup in this second round. He's given them a little bit of a different wrinkle, more expected, obviously, in this role. But the fact of the matter is, like, this team, organizationally, is incredibly deep. They've been deep for years, and to be able to go 7 or 8 deep and still find ways to win speaks volumes about everyone inside of the organization.
Why do I hear "Oh Canada" in the background?
Well, that's because the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens are about to play. I'm inside
also
because
it's in your heart,
and they've got the game sound on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
what do you want me to do?
No, you're not at the rink. So I was trying to think, is there a rehearsal going on? If you're at the rink, there's rehearsals. I hear that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But you're in a bar, and you're in a bar in Vegas. So
right.
for people to just suddenly break out in Canada would be somewhat unusual.
Somewhat unusual, but again, when you've got
I'm rounding up largely there.
When you've got a team from Canada playing in a hockey game, pretty important one today, and you're inside of a sports bar and they want to make it feel like you're at the arena, it's going to come through.
You know, they play "O Canada" or sing "O Canada" at Buffalo Sabre games, even when they're not playing a Canadian team?
Yeah, I do, and when I remind my wife of that fact, she gets really mad at me.
Why?
Well, because I let her know that Buffalo's basically Canada.
Yeah. Well,
she gets mad about that.
It confuses a lot of people. Every time it happens,
Canada?
and they start singing "O Canada," you look on Twitter or X, and people are like, "What? Why are they singing the anthem? Why are they singing the Canadian anthem?" And it's because so many fans of the Buffalo Sabres come from just across the border. So many of their supporters come from just across the border. Montreal against Buffalo in that series. The winner tonight will take a 3-2 series lead. The Vegas Golden Knights can bump off the Anaheim Ducks tonight in 6 games if they record a victory here. If you need more from
Daren?
somebody, if you need more from a little bit of somebody in this game tonight, elimination game for the Vegas Golden Knights trying to bounce the Anaheim Ducks, who's it got to come from?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I really don't. I think it's when I look at it collectively. And
you said the other day you needed secondary scoring.
I did, and then you got it, right? You got it from Tomas Hertl and Pavel Dorofeev, and that's a big reason why you've got a 3-2 series lead. I think that this isn't necessarily about scoring for me. And I know that's going to sound like
where does it have to come from? Where does the extra oomph have to come contribution have to come from?
I think it has to come from a really, really good defensive game. I think it has to come from everybody pulling on the rope defensively to make up for not having Braden McNabb again. I think that you need your 1 through 6 D-core tonight to have exceptional games. Like in the way that we looked at Shea Theodore take on more responsibility, more minutes, play a fantastic game defensively in game number 5. Like I think the Golden Knights have to be buttoned up, clean, really good defensively 1 through 6 in this game in order to win. So
team defense.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I think with their system, with the way that they played, I know they're a little bit more aggressive under John Tortorella than they were playing under the tutelage of Bruce Cassidy. But I don't think the way they handle things and the way they want to go north, it's a big stretch to ask that players. And Dylan Coughlin, he's used to playing big minutes, responsible minutes, important minutes with the Henderson Silver Knights. So with his adjustment, playing up with Shea Theodore, getting some of those extra minutes, it's not a big leap. Now, I think you're still going to see a ton of Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Andersson, and Shea Theodore in some collection, and then we'll figure it out from there. But I hesitate to say we're going to see the traditional top 4 with some good support minutes from the last pairing. I think it's going to be work as you go. And the score is going to dictate a lot of what the end ice time is going to look like.
Yeah, and, in terms of defense, and, I just kind of had a thought in my mind about Shea Theodore. Like, I thought Shea was fantastic in Game 5, especially in the absence of Braden McNabb. So if you're looking at one player individually that I guess would be indicative of what I'm talking about, it's probably Shea Theodore. I think you need another dominant defensive performance from Shea.
Let's get the comments from the head coach, John Tortorella, who spoke to the media earlier today at the Honda Center.
George, you've been part of closing out series a lot over the years, including one recently. What's the key to doing it, and how tough is it to get that 4th win?
Well, I think as each game goes by in the series, you got to be better. I think both teams will be better tonight. We're going to have to be. I don't look at it as game, closing out a series. I just want our team to be better than they were the last game and see where it fall from there.
You mentioned yesterday there's really no secrets left. You know what they do and vice versa. Is it almost a matter of will at this point to impose yours more than they can do it on you guys?
Well, I think it's will. I think it's chipping out some things that may be hurting you in games. And I think it comes down to a big play, a big save, a big momentum swing. So we're, as I say, we're prepared to play. I think we're going to have to be better in all facets, and we'll see where we go.
How do you make up for McNabb's absence?
Well, you don't. You just you put a guy in. Corsi will go in tonight, and I don't think you can substitute for a guy of that magnitude for us. But you play a team defense. We're banged up there. Lousey's out now. Nabra's out. We've got to just be smart in front of our goalie and as far as our play away from the puck.
What did you learn about Shea Theodore in the last game?
Oh, Shea's one that as far as his puck movement and his positioning, you can see his experience, and we're certainly going to have to lean on him now. He'll probably be shifted over to the other side. We're going to have to lean on him even more now with Nabber out. But the thing that always impresses me about him is just his vision and how he gets us up the ice.
Do you feel like you gained something defensively with him shifting to the other side that maybe you don't have?
I have no idea. I've never seen him play the other side.
Stone's still out, right? Stone is still out.
Stone is out.
Lazan as well.
Lazan is out.
Did either come with you down here?
They are out.
With Shea in blocking shots as well, just how vital was that, especially when Braden went out the block shots on I think 4 last game?
Yeah. I think there were a number. We just watched one tape. There were a number of block shots. That's a big part of playing right now. As each game comes your way in a 7-game series, those are the little things that have to happen, and everybody has to do them.
Do you feel like Saad's game grew from the first game you had him into the last one?
I thought he played good. I thought that line played good the last game.
John Tortorella greeting the media earlier today, just talking about a little bit of the shift in defense, just pairing. So one, that Shea Theodore is going to move from the right side over to the more natural left side, which they did a couple of years ago. Started there and then decided to go back to the good old pairing with Braden McNabb, who normally plays the left side. Now, why is that a story? Moving from one side to the other. He's a left-handed shot. It's more natural that a left-handed shot defenseman would play the left side. You can take pucks off the boards in the offensive zone. You're moving up the ice. Your stick is on that side. If you're skating it up, you can move it towards up the boards a little bit easier. There's a lot of just natural tendencies that help out a left shot defenseman playing the left side. Now, it's not totally foreign that somebody would have success on their offside. It's happened several times, and primarily in his VGK career, Shea Theodore has played the right side despite being a left shot defenseman. So it's not unusual. He's not in foreign territory. It's more a natural spot. But with the left shot limitations that they have right now, it's easier for him to move over to his natural side and have Dylan Coghlan skate with him over on the right.
How much are you kind of anticipating seeing Shea take shifts on the left side and the right side? Do you anticipate you don't anticipate him taking any shifts like with Noah Hannafin on the right side or anything like that?
I guess he could in that sense, but bounce back and forth, and that's the advantage that you have with him. The versatility, it does give you that advantage when you're working primarily with a big three and other three in this game, because there's a difference between Shea, Noah, and Rasmus, and the other guys that are playing in this game tonight, with Dylan Coghlan coming in and Caden Korzak re-entering the series, and Ben Hutton. Nobody's going to be able to argue that that's not a fact, but there's some versatility if you're wiggling in or going top heavy with those three, but I don't think that it's going to stand out in any capacity, and it probably helps John Stevens more than anybody. But it also, like when you're going back and forth, you're like mid-game, flipping back and forth, it can be somewhat challenging because you're in it.
Right?
Yeah, and you don't know who's coming on, who you're playing with. So I anticipate that Johnny Stevens, who runs the defense, will try to keep
that to a minimum.
Shea Theodore primarily on the left side.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting. Like, obviously, Shea hasn't played the left side in a long time, so.
Well, no, he's played it at times this year.
Yeah, sure, but it's been a while, right? Like, it's been a minute.
But it's not a big thing. If you know going in, it's not a big thing. Sure. I'll be honest with you. It's probably more overstated than it is under appreciated.
Yeah, I expect nothing but great things from Shea Theodore tonight.
Well, I wonder what you expect from John Shannon, who will join us. The co-host of 100% Hockey will dive into happenings outside the playoff picture. Big news out of Edmonton today, the happenings in Toronto, and the formal announcements making things official in Vancouver. It's all on the topic, on the agenda, with John Shannon next on the VGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Fast start to the game involving the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens, a 2-2 series in that Eastern Conference set. The winner advanced to take on the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. Buffalo has scored twice, and they lead the Montreal Canadiens 2-1 on home ice. As we welcome in John Shannon, the co-host of 100% Hockey, talk some NHL. Big news today, John. The Edmonton Oilers, after dancing around this whole coaching situation for a couple of weeks, have parted ways with Chris Knobloch. It's been a fast and fascinating transition from back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances to exiting in the first round and being out of a job.
It's what have you done for me lately, really, right? I mean, when you think about it.
It's unfair.
In many ways, yeah, it is. It is unfair. When you consider that all four starting centers, McDavid, Draisaitl, Dickinson, Henrique, were all injured in the playoffs. McDavid was at 60%, Draisaitl was at 70%, Dickinson was at 50%, and Henrique couldn't play, that they had to make this change. This, to me, was unfortunate. It was wrong. And in my mind, it was proactive to try to make sure that Connor McDavid stays beyond the 2 years.
So what makes him stay beyond 2 years? What has to happen? What are they looking at putting in place?
Well, I think what you have to do is look for a veteran coach, someone who has won, someone knows how to win, someone that won't bend, and maybe somebody with a little more passion that Chris showed, and then go from there. That list is pretty short right now, but it's only May, and there will be people available, I think, by July.
Well, that's a good question. That I haven't brought up with you on 100% Hockey or on this show. Do you think Connor McDavid stays in Edmonton after this contract?
I think it's too early to decide that. I think that's why this move today is trying to figure out a way to keep Connor happy.
Or is it just trying to win with Connor, knowing that he might be gone?
Yeah, but if they win with Connor, there's a better chance that he stays long term. Mm-hmm. No, that's the reality. He has a nice life in Edmonton. So from that perspective, is it a high-profile city? No, but it's a hockey-crazy city. He is on a pedestal in that city like no other player is around the National Hockey League, I don't think. And so there is some value to that. So the answer is I could see Connor moving on.
I don't think it's guaranteed, even if they win, that he stays.
Oh, no, it's not. No, nothing's guaranteed anymore, Daren. Let's go back to 1989, right? Let's go back to 1989. Excuse 88, August of 88. When Wayne Gretzky gets traded, nothing's guaranteed anymore, and that's the reality of where we are in this business.
Was it August 8th?
August 8th or 9th of that year. Yeah,
it's amazing that vicinity hangs in my head. Sorry, Ryan.
John. The coach is one aspect of it. The roster, what the Edmonton Oilers look like next season, is going to be another aspect of it. Pressing needs for the Oilers, like what do they have to address in the offseason to get better as a team on the ice?
Goaltending? Oh, this is a recording? Goaltending? They have to address it again, which is an issue. I do think that they have to find a way to get another top six forward. The challenge now becomes, Zach Hyman's not getting younger. He's been a little more injury prone the last couple of years. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is not getting that much younger. His effectiveness is wearing off. They thought they could solve the problem with, signing Jack Roslovic, but Jack Roslovic is not a top six forward. They have two really bright young guys in Podkolzin and Savoy. But are they top six guys? They aren't, but, they're quality contributors. I just think that there are too many moving parts. By the way, it's 3-1 Buffalo now. There are too many moving parts in Edmonton to think that they're one or two tweaks away from being a contender again. And that's the real issue right now, and that's the issue they have to fight as they try to keep Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl happy.
Hold on. You said 3-1 Buffalo? I had it at 2-2.
Oh, I came down to do the interview and I heard the crowd roar. I just assumed that was a Buffalo roar, but maybe it's a Montreal roar.
might be.
I will tell you there are a lot of red sweaters in the crowd here. It's unbelievable.
There it is.
Oh, you're at the game right now?
I'm at the game, yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry that we're taking you away from this wild first period.
How could I miss my time on Thursday nights with you guys?
Here I am giving updates on the game coming into your segment, and you're there.
Yeah. Well, what's the score now?
It's 3-2 Buffalo. They just scored.
3-2 Buffalo. Buffalo did score. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah,
John Shannon's with us on 100% Hockey
I figured
Podcast.
my logic was my logic was, if you're going to go to the Vegas game, I have to come to the Buffalo game. We have to cover the Stanley Cup playoffs on this podcast. You know,
I'm all for it, and we're also keeping an eye on Vancouver. This is an incredible Pacific Division right now. Los Angeles is going through coaching interviews. Edmonton fires its coach, and Vancouver settles on a unique structure for their front office, with the Sedins taking over as co-presidents. And in the end, it's Ryan Johnson who gets the job, despite being looked over in a couple of places. He fights through and gets the position.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised about the Ryan Johnson part, and quite frankly, the Daniel and Henrik Sedin part only came to fruition in the last 15 days. There was a point where they had approached the Twins to ask them if they wanted to be more involved, and they were led to believe that they didn't want to be more involved. And then when I think things started to change, they had a discussion and came back and said, yeah, we want to be more involved. And in the end, they were the ones who made this decision on Ryan Johnson. And quite frankly, they had worked with Ryan because they've been in player personnel for the Canucks the last 8 years. And so Ryan has been a big part of what they have been doing with their AHL team and some of the young guys coming up and down from the AHL to the NHL.
What does success look like for the Sedins and Ryan Johnson then? Like on a timeline or just in general, what does success look like for them?
Well, more than 52 points, which is what they had this year. I think you have to show improvement. They have started, I think, with a better stage for this hockey club. The Quinn Hughes trade helped. Getting rid of some of the bodies at the deadline helped. Constantly now we hear from the Canuck players that they are much happier as a group, that a few of the guys have disappeared. You can put that together, whether that's Keither Sutherland or Connor Garland or Tyler Myers or a few others, or Quinn Hughes. And so from that perspective, this seems to be a much more attentive group, pulling in the same direction, because they certainly weren't pulling in the same direction. They also need a healthy goaltender. They're supposed to have one in Thatcher Demko next year. So I'm not sure they can be a contender, Ryan, but they have to show improvement. If they can go from 52 points to 72 points, people in Vancouver would be ecstatic with where they are, because they had already admitted they're in a full rebuild. And they have some good young pieces, starting with Zeb Bouillon, to work with and trying to make this team competitive in a marketplace that has changed so quickly. It wasn't that long ago where Vancouver was competing with Vegas and Edmonton for the division lead, and we were laughing at San Jose and Anaheim for being also Rans. Well, things have changed.
Who has veto power? Daniel
or
or
no,
Henrik?
No. See, that's the magic of it. They only think as one.
You're right in on that, right? Identical twins.
What's that?
You're all identical, in on the identical twins.
Well, listen, they have done everything together all their lives. They went into the Hall of Fame together. When was the last time you saw that? I mean, they were on the Hall of Fame ballot together. They have written the rules of how to play the game and how to be in the game. They have written the rules for their own liking, and it has worked for them their whole life. And by the way, as a couple of Swedes have elected to live in Vancouver as opposed to live back in Sweden, and they love living on the West Coast.
Daniel was drafted higher. Does that give him the edge?
I blame Brian Burke because he just did it alphabetically. E versus H. So.
What are you hearing? What are you hearing about Los Angeles and their coaching situation?
Well, I mean, DJ officially is still the coach, but I do think Kenny is looking at where he needs to be and what he has to do in order to make this team better. I think he's looking for a coach and he's looking for a center. Know any centers that are available?
There's always centers available. It's just whether or not you're willing to
good centers.
trade. and they had a good center, and he's playing in the Eastern Conference second round.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean that's that's part of what goes on in this league. You take a chance, you make a trade, and the guy blossoms somewhere else.
Oh, and they also had another one who plays in Washington who had a pretty good year. And I'm not blaming Los Angeles for that one.
Who's that?
Pierre-Luc Dubois. And
no.
And
please don't go.
It was never going to work in L.A. It was never going to work in L.A. And I like the fact they did. But that has come up in conversation recently. The fact that they're so depleted on center ice depth, and Dubois rebounded in Washington.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I am not a card-carrying member of the PLD fan club. So.
Oh no.
No,
I can't believe you just used that acronym for him.
I'm really
well. I know because I was afraid I might trip over Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Pierre-Luc Dubois. Sometimes I get
Dubois.
confused. Is it Pierre-Luc Dubois or is it Pierre-Luc Dubois? So I just go PLD as well.
I did
John
that
Shannon.
for you because you're big into nicknames.
Huge into nicknames, Shanny. Huge into nicknames. Daren Millard along with Ryan Wallace. It's the VGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
So I'm not looking for a name or anything, but when you start to think about Toronto, their next head coach, what do you envision? Like, what does that ideal candidate look like to you?
Well, it's a good question, Ryan. Because what are the Maple Leafs? Are the Maple Leafs going to be a playoff team next year, or are they going to be a team that is in a 2 to 3 year rebuild? If they are a playoff team next year, then you're going for a veteran coach who can put them over the top and make them maybe even win a playoff round, heaven forbid. Or if you're going to say we're going to do a massive rebuild, I want a young coach with modern thoughts to grow with my team. And I think your list is different, and I don't think they've made that decision yet of whether they're going to be in the rebuild or the retool or the whatever.
We just got word the conference finals schedule are out, and this has some fluidity to it in the Eastern Conference. But in the West, the Western Conference Championship Series will begin on Wednesday in Denver with Vegas or Anaheim, whoever comes out of this, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. So we have a start date for the Western Conference Final.
And there's two guys really happy about that. Two guys. Mark Stone and Teo Makar.
Looked like Makar got banged up a couple of times.
I think he's been hurt since the first game of this series. Thinking whether it was a hip pointer or a shoulder or something, and I've always advised guys don't guess, but there's something on his right side that has been constantly bugging him, and he's trying to avoid hits. But that's a good sign. Give more incentive for the Golden Knights to win tonight and get this sucker over with, and give the boys some rest, right?
Do you know what a hip pointer is?
A hip pointer? Yeah, it's a bruise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like that's an old school terminology to it that you and I have used forever. And just,
what do you call it now? What do you call it now?
Just hearing that brought out some nostalgia in me in how we talk about injuries. But you're right. We shouldn't speculate.
Hold on. What do you call a hip pointer now?
Banged up hip. I just haven't heard hip pointer in a long time.
Well, you know what? You got to get out of your cave. That's what you got to do. You got to get out of it. This is what you have to do. Come on, hip pointer. You talk to the boys at UNLV on the football squad. How many of those guys had hip pointers? A lot of them had hip pointers.
It is an old school term, but it is a deep bruise to the hip.
Yeah.
And it's something that is difficult to play through because it takes a while to heal. So I'm curious. And there's a couple of different sides. It can be high in the hip. It can be low in the hip. It's just a general term to a banged up hip. You don't like that?
Well, you did the diagnosis. I'm not going to argue with you.
When did that stop?
Dr. Daren. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like the old Craig Ferguson show and the awkward pause.
Yeah.
You
Love
know,
that guy.
Yeah, me too. He was the best.
He was awesome, and he could get away with stuff that nobody could get away with. I don't know whether it's because he worked with a skeleton. That guy had some hip pointers. His co-host on that show, you can see the pointed hips on that guy. John Shannon's with us on 100% Hockey. He does the podcast. He's also our guest every Thursday on the VGK Insider Show. Alec Martinez is going to join us tomorrow.
Good. And look, we'll have some good, sane hockey discussion. That'll be good. I mean, we get somebody that works in Vegas that actually understands the game. It'll be good. It'll be fantastic. By the way, before we go, I got to say hello to my pal George McPhee. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's got it dialed up in his hotel room. He's listening to it on the computer as he's getting ready to have the shower and then get suited up and go over to the game at the pond. So.
I was surprised that Braden McNabb got the extra game on the suspension. Were you?
Yes, I was, but yeah. I do understand why. With the fact that it was a late hit. I didn't mind the 4-minute call. I thought the fact that it happened in the first period and he eliminated for the rest of the game was enough of a game misconduct. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you have a late hit and cause injury, you can understand it. You really can. But I would, if I had been in charge of supplemental discipline, I would not have given him any more than what we saw.
Elimination game tonight. First time this core group, this young group of Anaheim Ducks, have been in this position. What are you expecting out of them?
Well, I expect that their coach will have them wired and ready to go because Joel Quenneville does a great job of adapting. I thought they played well enough to win in Game 5, and it just so happened that the Golden Knights got the breaks and did a really good job. Carter Hart was good again. I think tonight is one of those nights where veteran leadership comes through, and when you look at Jack Eichel and Ivan Barbashev and some of these great players that have been so important to the Golden Knights, I get a sense that this will be a veteran leadership night, and they'll cut out all the noise in the Honda Center and come away with a victory.
I'll talk to you in the morning, pal. Go back to your game.
Cheers, boys.
There's John Shannon. Thank him so much for joining us. He's at that game, and he took time out, left the press box to be able to join us, make sure that we could hear him properly. In that game, by the way, Buffalo Sabres have scored on 3 of their first 4 shots, now 3 of 7 overall, and have a 3-2 lead on the Montreal Canadiens. It looks like these are 2 youngerish teams. Buffalo hasn't been in this position in the playoffs in 14 years, but in a really tense situation. Montreal is a growing team, and it looks like some nerves coming out in that game.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, it leads to exciting hockey for fans to watch, and if you don't have a horse in the race, it's been a really fun period of hockey. But you have to imagine, right, that as this game wears on, both teams will settle in a little bit, or at least you'd hope that if you're Marty St. Louis and Lindy Ruff, and we'll see what happens over the final 40 minutes here.
Yeah, I wonder if either coach is thinking about a goaltending change with such early offense coming from the other side. We'll watch that one, keep you up to date as we continue. We'll tee up the 5 o'clock hour on the VGK Insider Show as we continue on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Hey there, John Shannon here. Daren Millard and I do 100% hockey 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and believe it or not, we do have fun. And here's what's even more surprising. Our guests have fun. It's hockey. It's fun. And you know what? If you listen, you'll have fun too. That's 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon on your favorite podcast platform.
You're listening to the VGK Insider Show.
Catching up on that wild start to the first period between Montreal and the Buffalo Sabres. There was 2 goals in 9 seconds in that game, and I absolutely loved when I used to do the desk at Sportsnet. I loved it when we would start a highlight goal off a center ice face-off after the other team's goal, because it's generally that a highlight is 9 to 10 seconds. if you're cutting it for voicing over highlight purposes. So if you're going and you're showing the center ice face-off after the previous goal, that means it's within that 7 to 9 second span, and that's exactly what happened tonight. The goal that was scored was a shot that was going like 17 feet wide, and it just hit Alex Texier and went in, and no chance for the goaltender Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I'm shocked that Montreal didn't make a goaltending change in that first. 3 straight shots went in on Jakub Dobeš, and the third one was the smelliest of the 3. But they're sticking with them, and he's been able to dig himself out after allowing 3 of the first 4 shots, and now trying to get through the first period.
Yeah, I think you have to. Well, you don't have to. You can make a goalie change whenever you want to, but Dobeš has been very, very good for the Montreal Canadiens this year.
But if you didn't make it then, and he hasn't allowed a goal since, you're probably sticking with him.
Yeah, you have. I think you give him a chance to battle through it, to fight through it, and he's been able to make every save the rest of the way. So good on him for that. And we'll see again how he settles in now in the second and third periods.
Winner there takes a 3-2 series lead. Mention the scenarios going forward. That the Western Conference Final will begin Wednesday in Denver with Vegas, hopefully, or Anaheim, but both teams are still in play. But we know that series will drop the puck on Wednesday in the Mile High City. The Eastern Conference depends on what happens in this Montreal-Buffalo series. It could go, if it ends in 6 games, it will start on Tuesday. If it goes the full 7, it will be Thursday. So that a little bit of play in that. We were discussing before we came on the air just about when series might start. It's the Eastern Conference that could go as early as Tuesday, but if it goes 7, it will be the second of the conference finals to get underway. So we do know what's in store should Vegas advance. So whether it ends tonight or wraps up on the weekend at T-Mobile Arena, the Vegas Golden Knights will be on the road if they advance and start Wednesday and against the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, listen, I mean, it pulls into perspective how important this game is for the Golden Knights, as if it's not important to just close out a series and punch your ticket to the Western Conference Final, but understanding how much rest you can get if you can close it out here in 6, it's massive going into the game.
Basically get a week off if you can win tonight. Yeah. And John Shannon's right. We don't know the status of Mark Stone, but you buy him some time and you get some rest in there. You will get Braden McNabb back. We don't know the status of Jeremy Lauzon, but you buy him some time. You get a week in there. We'll talk more about the Vegas Golden Knights and the Anaheim Ducks going into Game 6 tonight in the next hour, the 5 o'clock hour on Fox Sports Las Vegas and the VGK Insider Show.
Terry tries to move it to the middle. Eichel still has it. Tries to make a pass across. They score! A cross-crease pass. And Jack Eichel makes the play. The Golden Knights take a 3-2 lead in the series.
Now, back to the VGK Insider Show.
Got Game 6 tonight. Vegas Golden Knights are trying to close out this second-round series against the Anaheim Ducks. The pond has been good to the Vegas Golden Knights over the years. The road has been beneficial to the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we're hoping that both those trends continue tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the Golden Knights, they have done a great job of being able to close out series. They've done a great job of finding their best game in these moments. They certainly did in round number 1 against Utah in Game 6. So I think for Vegas, they're just looking for a repeat performance. They're looking to do their best to take the crowd out of it and push Anaheim to their limits and find a victory here.
see how both teams react to this situation. Both clubs were able to wrap up their respective series in the first round in 6 games. The Anaheim Ducks getting past the Edmonton Oilers, and the Vegas Golden Knights bouncing the Utah Mammoth. This is an all-Pacific matchup to vie for the conference final and a series against the Colorado Avalanche. And the good news is for both teams is that the Western Conference Final will start next Wednesday in Denver. So Vegas and or Anaheim, not and, will both get a little bit of time off before the start of the Western Conference. You do have the opportunity, though, for, if you win tonight, that carrot, a couple of extra days before you have to head over to Denver.
Yeah, which is, I mean, again, absolutely massive, right? When you think about it from a Golden Knights perspective, because they are the team with the opportunity to close out today, it's almost a week off. It's almost a week of just being able to rest, recover, get yourself ready to go for a Western Conference final opponent in the Colorado Avalanche. So the more rest you can get, the more you can just kind of take the throttle off a bit, the better. And of course, that only happens if you're able to take care of business tonight.
Actually, I want to go a couple of different directions as we are joined by Kevin Baxter of the LA Times, hockey columnist on the VGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas, Daren Millard and Ryan Wallace. What are you expecting about this young Ducks core tonight in the first time that this group of 20-year-olds is going to face elimination?
Well, I want to dovetail on what you guys were just talking about. I'm not so sure that long a break at this point of the season is a good thing. Yeah, you get rested and everything, but guys will be skating every day. But, we saw coming out of the Olympic break, you see kind of even 3 or 4 days off in the baseball season. It's kind of refreshing, but it takes you a little bit to get your legs under you. Now, of course, Colorado's going to have an even longer break, so maybe it's a wash. But a week off at this point of the season when you've been playing every other day could be tough. But when you ask about the young Ducks, it was real interesting to talk to them after Game 5 in Vegas, which was a disappointing loss in overtime. Everyone there said, we want to get back on the ice right now. We'll play them tonight. We're confident. We think that we can beat them. We think we're a better team. And it's like and you asked them about elimination because, guys tend to get very tight in elimination games. And these guys are too young and too inexperienced to know what they don't know. What they don't know is kind of the challenge that they face. I think a lot of these guys intellectually know that, this is a must-win game, but it's almost like they're playing with house money. Like, if we don't win on Thursday, we'll be back tomorrow. And no, you won't be. And I think that's a good thing for the Ducks to sort of not really have the knowledge to know how tense the situation is.
Now, when you look at this being a pivotal game number 6, obviously the Ducks are facing elimination. Like, who's got to get the job done? Like, which players are you looking at on that Ducks team that have to step up and have the games of their lives?
Well, I don't know about the game of their life, but Seneke, certainly, a 20-year-old rookie. He's a guy that, again, first time on this stage, is playing out of his mind. Brent McTavish and of course, Killorn, the veteran guy. Both the Carlsons have been a little bit quiet in this series. I think maybe they kind of need to step up. This is a game I think the Ducks have to take advantage of, and I say that because Vegas is missing 2 of their major players, Stone and then McNabb out with the suspension. That's the captain one, and then probably the top defender, defenseman. This is a real opportunity for the Ducks at home with the crowd and everything to get back in the series. And then, you say, well, they've got to win 2 in a row. They really don't. They need to win 1, and then it's a funny bounce or, a flip of the coin in Game 7. Anything can happen in Game 7. So this is really the one. If the Ducks can get through this, then again, they're, again, I hate to keep using that slogan with you guys, but then again, they're playing with house money if they go back to Vegas.
What are you hearing about Radko Gudas? I know he's been skating on the off days and taking part in a couple of morning skates, and he's been close. Any chance he gets in?
I think they're looking at the next series if they make it that far. Could he surprise tonight? Yeah, you're right. He's been skating. He's been close. Maybe the fact that Vegas has dominated this series physically, maybe this is a time to sort of roll that. And even if you don't get a full, 20 minutes, 22 minutes of ice time out of him, maybe you get something. Maybe you get enough shifts to make it work. I would be surprised to see him tonight, not signed. I mean, it's possible. I would not be surprised to see him in a Game 7 when everything's at stake. But I do think in a perfect world, they're looking at probably the next series if there is one.
What kind of vibe you getting from Joel Quenneville right now?
Really confident. He appears to be having a lot of fun. Now, we know this is a guy that's had really great success over his career with young teams. He really loves young players. I think he's feeding off this a lot. He's an older guy, second in all time in wins and the leader in playoff games and playoff wins among active coaches. But I think he feels like he's about 20 years younger with some of these guys. And he used a phrase in the press conference after the Game 5 loss when he said, the team is looking forward to this challenge. And he said, they're looking forward to the fun. I don't know a lot of guys who think about an elimination game in the Stanley Cup playoffs as being fun. But that's how these Ducks are looking at it.
When you think about, performances, again, that can kind of transcend, find a way to help a team win, you can always look at your goaltender, right? Like, they can steal you a game. How good does Lukas Dostal need to be in this game?
Well, I think he's been really good in the series. And he did get pulled out of one game when he gave up 3 goals on 8 shots. We thought maybe there was a goaltender controversy. After that game, Quenneville said it would be a game-time decision for the next game if Dostal would come back, and he did. I think that's really reinvigorated him. I think he's played really well in the series. And again, he hasn't faced that many shots. You look at the Ducks too. Again, the young, speedy Ducks. Playing against the older, more mature Vegas Knights. The number of shots they've taken in this series is astounding, but not a lot of good quality shots. And I think that's their exuberance and their energy. One thing that I wanted to share with you guys, because I don't know if you saw this, but Vegas has gotten more than a few breakaways in this series. And one of the things the Duck defensemen have done to break that up is they've left their feet, they've gone to the ice and stretched out and taken away the pass. And I think that's been really effective. I've seen it work 3 or 4 times already. But there was a moment in the last game in Vegas where the Vegas player, I don't remember who it was, saw the Duck defenseman go down again, which they've done, and tried to pull up. And, once you leave your feet, you can't change directions. I would have watched for that tonight. If there's a breakaway and a Duck defenseman goes down, I think Vegas has kind of figured out a way to work around this. I expect to see that whoever the puck handler is to turn and go back the other way and create an opening for that pass. That's something that I'd watch for because the Ducks have, gone to the ice every single time, and I think Vegas has kind of figured out that's their strategy.
Is this already a success in the eyes of the management of the Anaheim Ducks? You still want more, but if it ends tonight?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really great question because the Ducks will not admit that. So first, everyone in the organization, taker to the general manager, said no. If you lose your last game, it's not a successful season. But this is a team that hadn't won a playoff series since 2017. Hadn't been to the playoffs since 2018. Pat Verbeek building with draft picks and everything at the stage. I think it was a successful season when they made the playoffs. And then when they beat Edmonton, a great team in Edmonton, the Kings weren't able to beat them in 4 tries. When they beat Edmonton, that was just sort of icing on the cake. The fact that they're even here, I definitely think that's a success. They won't say, if they were to lose tonight, they won't say that tonight. But I think everyone's going to go home for the summer. I think we're way ahead of pace. And I've heard a lot of people talk about how this young Ducks team, the way it's been built and the way it's playing, reminds them a lot of Colorado 2-3 years ago.
Kevin Baxter from the LA Times is with us talking hockey on the VGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
So to that end, this run, regardless of how many more games it is for the Anaheim Ducks, what has it done for expectations beyond this season? Has it made those expectations rise? What do you expect now out of the Ducks year over year?
Yeah, again, the comparisons to Colorado I think are really good. There's 14 players on this team that had never played in a playoff game until this season. Now they're in the second round. They've eliminated the Oilers. They've taken Vegas to, pretty much to the limit. I was talking to Mason McTavish in the middle of the season, and, I asked him about that. Do you guys pinch yourself and say, are we really here? Are we really contenders? And he said, look around the room. He said, there's a lot of guys here who have never even played on a winning team, much less gotten to the playoffs. So what this does for their confidence, and the fact that so many of the young players are playing so well, as Zellweger, Ian Moore, it's not a situation where the veterans have carried them. I mean, Gudas, was the captain, and he's not even playing in this series. It's not a situation where the veterans have carried them. The young guys have been the leaders. And, I think they're going to finish this season, regardless of where it ends, with a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in themselves. And the fact that, getting to the playoffs, once they get there, it's still the same game. These guys didn't know that until now. It's still the same game. They can compete. They can play. And I think regardless of where the series ends, if it were to end tonight, even in a blowout, I think they would look at it and say, look, if we get the icing call in game one, early in the series, we were there the whole time, right there, a bounce one way or the other, and we could be in the conference final.
Kevin, before I let you go, I want to get just your take on what's happening on the other team that you keep an eye on in the Los Angeles Kings. They've gone down a path on looking at some coaching candidates. They also have DJ Smith there, who finished up the season. Where are you on where this team is with its head coach at the start of next season?
Well, I thought Smith did a really good job. Obviously, they closed really strong, got to the playoffs, and it's not, his fault. They were drawn against the best team in the league. I did get to see Colorado in 4 games in that series, and wow, they are the most complete team in the league by far. They are really good. But I think the Kings look at it and say, look, we tried this with Jim Hiller. We thought that was really good. That didn't work out. Despite the fact Hiller had the most successful season in franchise history in his only full season, they felt like that didn't work out. This is a team that is going to be, they lost Andre Kopitar. Drew Doughty is not the player he was. This is a team in transition. This is a team that has a few pieces, but in no way, shape, or form do they have a team right now. They do have some cap space they can play with, but it's a team that's rebuilding. It's a team that's starting over, and they really haven't had, playoff success in the last 5 years. So the Kings are in a place. I expect it. And unfortunately for the Kings, they play in the same market with the Ducks, who are now, ascending. I think it's going to be a few tough years for the Kings. The head coach job will, picking a good candidate there will help. But I think this is beyond only, one man. What one man can do, the Kings are fortunate.
Kevin, thank you. Pacific Division's starting to get jammed up like LA traffic. Appreciate you joining us on what is Game 6 day between Vegas and Anaheim. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
There's Kevin Baxter from the LA Times. We slide over to one-timers on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
Carlson left corner, centered, one-timer, score!
It's time for One-Timers. A quick look at news and notes from around the National Hockey League. Brought to you by Paul Pata Law. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery.
Potentially the last 2-game night in the National Hockey League in the 2026 season. We have an Eastern series that is underway right now. Game 5 between Montreal and Buffalo. It remains 3-2 early on in the second period there. All 5 goals were scored in the first period. Buffalo scoring on 3 of its first 4 shots. And the Montreal Canadiens sticking with Jacob Dobush in that game. And he is the goaltender of record. As I check out the game summary right now, he is carried over and is still the goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens. Surprised me a little bit in the sense that they didn't make a change early in the first period, but sticking with him now as they play in the second period of a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, and he just made a massive save on Tage Thompson, who got behind the defense of the Montreal Canadiens. So good choice there from Marty St. Louis. Sticks with his guy, and it's still a 1-goal game.
I don't know any other coach that does that when you're in this situation. Unless it's like a Brodeur or a Waugh type that has been through it before. You've got a rookie goaltender. Now, your backup's also a rookie, but you've allowed goals in 3 of the first 4 shots, and you stick with them. Gutsy call and you're coming off the pregame warm-up. The guy hasn't been sitting for 2 hours. The other guy.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I kind of would have expected him to make a change, but interesting decision by Marty St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Like, if the Montreal Canadiens are able to come back in this game and win it, and Dobush is a big part of the reason why, then you got to give a lot of credit to Marty St. Louis for sticking with this guy.
Big story off the ice today is the Edmonton Oilers, with all the rumors flying around their head coaching situation, decide to move on from Chris Knobloch. No replacement has been named for the Edmonton Oilers head coaching position.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's really tough because you look at Knobloch's history with the Edmonton Oilers. Comes in, takes them to a Stanley Cup final. Next season follows it up with another Stanley Cup final appearance. Tough season this year, obviously. But again, as we talked about with John Shannon, like, they were a pretty banged-up team in the first round of the playoffs this year. And, I mean, you make a trade for Tristan Jarry. He's not even your number one goaltender to start the playoffs. Like, there are a lot of things that were not Chris Knobloch's issue or problem. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't believe he's the guy that can get you over the hump, if you don't believe that he can be the guy to win you a Stanley Cup in the 2-year window you've got Connor McDavid, you got to cut bait and you got to find the right guy.
Never missed the playoffs in his 3 years, in his first tenure as a National Hockey League head coach. This was a lot less about Chris Knobloch and more about Connor McDavid and positioning that situation in the right spot to be able to extend him and be able to get Connor McDavid committed to the organization long term. And the only way to do that is you got to turn over every rock you possibly can to try and win. Optics may be just as important as anything else to show Connor McDavid that you're willing to go all with both feet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I think that it hasn't. I think you're right. It's not so much to do with Chris Knobloch. I don't believe it's necessarily fair that he's the guy that falls on the sword, so to speak. But at the end of the day, you are guaranteed 2 years of the best player in the world, and that's it. You have no guarantee beyond that. You have to maximize everything that you can, and that is not just the coach. It's trying to improve the roster at every potential spot in order to get 16 playoff wins. That's the goal.
Everybody keeps talking about that there's 2 years left with Connor McDavid.
Okay, yeah, maybe a year and a half. We'll see.
Yeah, like if you go through next year and it's not trending in the right direction, and like the Quinn Hughes thing,
yeah,
you make the move earlier. So you've got 1 year with them.
That's fair.
That's it.
That's a completely...
and then you got to go. That's why it's all in right now.
Right, and that's fair. He's under contract for 2 years. Effectively, if you don't get the job done or you're not able to convince Connor that enough good things are happening,
then you got to move off to get
something for it, right? You got to get value back, and it's not going to be equal or equivalent to Connor McDavid's value.
Well, you don't put yourself in a Mitch Marner situation like Toronto did, where you're dealing from a position of weakness, and Vegas was able to capitalize on that.
Right, because then you're giving a team an opportunity to have Connor McDavid for a playoff run, whatever the case may be. Like, you can get more in that situation. So you're right. It's probably more accurate to say you've got one guaranteed season with Connor McDavid. But even then, like, if it's not going well the first half of the year for the Edmonton Oilers, do you look at it and say...
No, that's an off-season trade.
You sure? Because two cracks at it in the postseason with Connor McDavid?
That's an off-season trade.
All right. Okay.
Chris Knobloch, 2 appearances in the Stanley Cup final and a first-round exit in 3 playoff tries. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to hear about him in Toronto. I'll be the first one to bring it up, but you're going to hear a lot about Chris Knobloch. I think he's a great fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs and their program, where they're headed with Chris Knobloch, a great success in junior. So if you're talking about a rebuild or the first overall pick, should they go down that path, he can work with good young players. He can work with superstars. He was part of a high intense market in Edmonton. I put Chris Knobloch right now at the top of the list for the Toronto Maple Leafs because he can go all in if you want to try to do the fast track thing, or if you want to rebuild, he can do that too.
Yeah, he's kind of like a hybrid, right? In that he's a younger coach, he's a newer coach, but he's got tremendous experience based on what he's done the last 3 years with the Edmonton Oilers. So you're right. Like if
Toronto likes to go off the map a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if they interviewed a bunch of guys that the hockey world's not familiar with. But Chris Knobloch came out of left field with the Oilers hiring, so it goes down that follows a similar path.
That is the best take you've had on the show today.
And I've had a lot of them too. Like I'm not sure it's any like significantly better than other ones, but
no, I think that's
like
the best.
They stack up on top of each other, and I lose track.
It's hard to climb the mountain every day. Somehow you do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's even hard.
No,
you get your fitness in the right spot.
Yeah. You were complaining about the bike yesterday.
You got to put the miles in, right? You got to put the miles in, and then the fitness is there. You're able to climb the mountain. Game 6 tonight. Game 6. Vegas, an opportunity to move on with a positive result. The pregame show ahead of the Golden Knights in Anaheim against the Ducks is coming up on Fox Sports Las Vegas. We'll be back with you on the VGK Insider Show tomorrow. Enjoy the hockey game, everybody. Elimination game for the Vegas Golden Knights, trying to advance to the Western Conference Final.